The online presenters, let's see, if you're viewing this online from Titlik or Sedovia, wherever, you want to go to your schedule button, and then you can choose between the rooms you want to be in for these concurrent sessions. If you're here in the building, you can choose between this room where we're going to be having Geoff Clark from PWSAC presenting on the hatcheries in Prince William Sound. And after Geoff, we will have Chris Conlon from Alaska Geographic. Those two are in this room. And in the next room is, or what's happening online in the lobby there is Mia with Alien Invaders and Nick Dawkin with Kids That's Mirrorless. I'm just wrapping my head around that. Let us know if we can help you. But I want to now introduce Geoff Clark, who's probably in the room. Here he is. So Geoff is going to present to us about the Prince William Sound Aquaculture Corporation hatcheries in Prince William Sound. And I just wanted to mention one special thing we're doing is this strand we're doing right now has youth participation through Chris Conlon's presentation and also Mia's. I just want to highlight that. So sorry for a little clunky intro, Geoff, but thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon. My name is Geoff Clark. I'm with Prince William Sound Aquaculture Corporation. And to start with, I want to thank Mike and Kelly Bender from Lazy Otter Charters for connecting me with Charlotte Hughes and her inviting me to present today to talk about Prince William Sound Aquaculture salmon hatcheries. I wasn't quite sure what the background for everyone would be, so I'm kind of doing a high-level overview of the programs that we have and the hatcheries that we have in Prince William Sound. And the presentation will be up there, and hopefully that'll foster some questions as well along the way. So that's right, I have control. So Prince William Sound Aquaculture Corporation was incorporated as, or PWSAC, was incorporated as a nonprofit corporation on December 30th, 1974. We raise all 5 species of salmon from 5 hatcheries. 4 of those hatcheries are located in Prince William Sound, and one of those is inland on a tributary, the Gulkana River, off of the Copper River, tributary of the Copper. So PWSAC's mission is to professionally and ethically optimize salmon production for all user groups in Prince William Sound, and that includes subsistence, commercial, sport, and in some cases, personal use fisheries. So we've got a map of Prince William Sound up there, and still a pointer also, or? It's not working on the screen, so. Okay, that's all right. So way off in the western portion there in the middle of the screen or the middle of the map, we've got Whittier. On the far right, you've got Cordova, and then in the top center almost, you've got Valdez. And then if you go from that left from Valdez, you've got Cannery Creek Hatchery. That's one of the ones in the Sound. And I'll talk a little bit more about each individual hatchery later. And then you've got Wally, Noerenberg next. That's about 20 miles east of Whittier. And then south of Wally, Noerenberg Hatchery, you've got Main Bay Hatchery. And then further south, in the southwest corner, you've got Armin F. Koerning Hatchery. So next, I've got a short video that I'd like to play. And if you could pause it just for 1 second. The video is a little bit of an older video, so some of the staffing has changed, but the message is still very relevant today. So.
Today, in Prince William Sound, abundant runs of salmon are creating new jobs and energizing Alaska's economy. But in the 1970s, the wild salmon runs were rapidly failing, and local economies along with them.
There were a lot of empty storefronts in Cordova.
The viability of the community was in question.
Wise people knew something had to be done. So the state of Alaska began a historic effort to revive the fishery. A salmon enhancement program comprised of non-profit hatcheries was established by the Alaska legislature. Most notable among them, the Prince William Sound Aquaculture Corporation, or PWSAC.
When we found out, we started looking. I'm George Covell. I'm chairman of Prince William Sound Aquaculture Corporation, or PWSAC. All our curves always look like that. Every year they always look like that. But first and foremost, I'm a fisherman. The original intended purpose or vision for PWSAC was to bring some sustainability to a fishery. Well, I'm talking about sustainability in human terms, not just biological terms. All that you see around you wouldn't be here if it weren't for the enhancement program in Prince William Sound.
Today, Alaska benefits from more than 24 hatcheries around the state. PWSAC operates 5 of them in the Prince William Sound Copper River region. The hatcheries are largely financed with a salmon enhancement tax paid by commercial fishermen and with money from the sale of hatchery fish to processors.
I came here in '76 and as a 20-year-old and got right into fishing. I went seining and we didn't, at that time PWSAC was just getting started, so we were seining on just wild stocks, and I remember we had a 100,000-pound season and we all were, whoa, you know, that was just unbelievable. And now it's not infrequent that you can do that in a day.
PWSAC hatcheries produce pink, chum, coho, and sockeye salmon for Alaska's commercial, sport, subsistence, and personal fisheries. In 2010, PWSAC salmon accounted for 30% of the total statewide salmon harvest, including a record-breaking pink salmon run.
PWSAC is driving the economy for this whole region.
Along with the salmon, PWSAC produces jobs and income. Prince William Sound salmon generated more than $300 million to local, regional, and statewide economies in 2010 alone.
We're all happy that things are really bright here now, and I think that it's all because of PWSAC.
My name is Bill Weber, born and raised Cordova.
Yeah, we're pretty much famous now.
There's nothing more exciting than catching fish, if it's one at a time or a whole bunch of them. Right now we're in the fishway at Cannery Creek Hatchery. This is where we enter our brood stock into the fresh water system, and they work their way up through this natural creek, and they head up to the hatchery where we actually take the eggs from the fish at that stage. This is the egg room. This is the heart of the operation here. We have individuals in here that are doing several different things. The first thing that they do is they sort the fish. They separate the males from the females. The females go one direction, the males go in other directions. And at that stage, those fish, the gametes are removed from those fish. So from the females, the eggs are removed. They're graded. They're graded for maturity. Mature eggs get turned into more fish. Immature and over-mature eggs are processed for roe. And then the males, they are spawned on top of the eggs, and then that milt is added to the eggs, and then the eggs are fertilized once they go to the incubation room. Once a bucket of eggs is filled, it comes out, it gets weighed. We put about 50 kilos of eggs into each incubator, which is 600,000 eggs. Right now there's 480 incubators in this room. Our max capacity at the current moment is 152 million eggs. From a green egg to an eyed egg is about 30 days, and then another 30 days until they actually hatch out into an alvin. We are very good at incubating the eggs, taking the harsh winter environment out of that stage of their life. And by controlling that, we can greatly increase the survival of those eggs. They're local, they're strong, they're wild salmon.
Few places compare to Prince William Sound. PWSAC's aquaculture practices are designed to protect this place and promote a healthy marine environment, including genetically robust hatchery and riverborne salmon.
These are wild fish. They have to survive just like everything else does out in the Pacific Ocean. They weren't imported from somewhere else. They came from the stocks that were local. With good, proper management, we will always have the wild stocks and we'll always have the hatchery stocks, and there's always going to be that nice mix where you can have the commercial harvest, keep the economy going in the community, and you'll always have those fish in the streams. It's really good that Alaska years ago set up this private nonprofit hatchery system. I'd hate to think what it would look like here without salmon. It would be a very different world.
Well, I don't think Cordova would be here if it wasn't for aquaculture.
Bill Weber was among those whose vision and hard work contributed to the return of wild stocks and today's abundant, sustainable harvests.
The on and off seasons of wild stocks, just with the freeze outs and heavy rains and things like that, it wouldn't be enough to sustain the state.
Aquaculture is a brilliant concept. It was controversial at the time, but it feeds our families. It produces jobs not only in the Prince William Sound, but all around the state of Alaska, and indeed around the world. I've seen it in markets in Taiwan, in Japan. I've actually seen it served in London and in Hong Kong. We are the center of international trade because of our fisheries.
It's jobs, jobs, job. It's economy.
An important part of the economy, PWSAC is an anchor, steadying Alaska's commercial fishery and communities statewide in fair times and foul.
By being able to put out a quality product, by having a stable resource, by being able to go out on the world markets with value-added products, it's had a huge, huge economic impact for Prince William Sound.
You know, it's been a great relationship over the last few years, and really it's been survival. When your core economy is very healthy and vital and growing, then you have a lot of ancillary business that grows around that, and we've seen that. There isn't a vacant storefront on Main Street. People can have confidence that the economy is sustainable.
The millions of pounds that we ship in finished and raw product provide a lot of jobs. We put lots of kids through college.
The fishing industry in Alaska, I believe, is about the second largest employer in the state. So it's not only, part of the economy here, it's part of our culture. I mean, Alaska is a fishing state. Whether you're doing it with a rod and reel or with a net and a boat or a long line, that's what people do here. That's what this state was built on.
For more than 30 years, PWSAC has worked in partnership with the state to create an abundant harvest for Alaska's commercial, sport, and subsistence fisheries. In these good times, PWSAC remains dedicated to producing salmon for generations of Alaskans to come.
It's a natural resource that's sustainable and renewable. It's different than mining. It's different than some of the non-renewable resources like oil. Once you pump it out of the ground, it's gone. The fish are going to keep coming back for year after year after year after year.
The future for Alaska salmon is promising, endowed with a unique hatchery program that strengthens the runs and paves the way for future generations.
All right. At this point, the state of Alaska does not allow farming of fish. So what these hatcheries do is considered ranching. So we grow them to a certain size, release them out into the ocean, and then they return on their own as adults. So that's an important distinction from farming fish. I thought that video could explain a lot of things real quickly, far better than I could. So, so as said before, PWSAC has 5 hatcheries, and we also have a Cordova administrative office, and then we also have an Anchorage distribution center, which is where we ship all of our goods and do a lot of our logistics and support for the hatcheries. That all comes through Whittier. All of our supplies going out to the remote hatcheries all come through Whittier. We have 53 full-time staff and up to 100 seasonal technicians each year. PWSAC is Alaska's largest salmon corporation or private nonprofit hatchery system, producing 649 million fry annually. 74% of that is pink. This is at PWSAC. 74% of that is pink, 21% of that is chum, and then 5% is sockeye or coho. We have a small cooperative Chinook program for the village of Chiniga that we do in cooperation with ADF&G as well. From those fish, we have a return goal of about 30 million adults annually, with approximately 70% of that going to the common property fisheries. We have an approximate annual operating budget of about 16 million, and 77% of PWSAC operations are funded through the revenue generated from cost recovery operations or selling a portion of the returning adults. And those are sold directly to the seafood processors. About 19% of the revenue that we use for operations comes from a 2% enhancement tax that the fishermen levied on themselves for this area and are paid by the area fishermen. 4% of that comes from investment income. So this is a picture of Armin F. Koerning Hatchery. This was PWSAC's first hatchery, and this is one of the ones that we own. 3 of the hatcheries that we operate are fish and game hatcheries from previous spread division, and we'll point that out when we get to each of those. But this is a picture of AFK down on Evans Island. So it's located at Port San Juan on Evans Island in Prince William Sound, about 90 air miles west of Cordova. As I said, AFK is the first PWSAC-owned hatchery. It's the original hatchery that was converted from an existing salmon cannery located on the site in 1974, and is designed as a pink and chum, originally designed as a pink and chum facility. AFK is currently permitted for 190 million pink salmon eggs, and then there's a 20 million chum release that they do there annually, where they receive eggs from Wally Noerenberg Hatchery. Now this is a picture of Cannery Creek Hatchery, and if anybody's been out there, this is an older picture. There's some new buildings and a little bit of a different layout, but it looks very close to the same. So Cannery Creek Hatchery is located in Unaquik Inlet, approximately 40 miles east of Whittier. It is one of the state-owned hatcheries that was built in 1978 by the ADF&G Fisheries Rehabilitation, Enhancement, and Develop Division, or otherwise known as FRED Division, and it was built as a pink and chum hatchery also. PWSAC assumed management and operational control of the hatchery in 1988. And Cannery Creek is currently permitted for 187 million pink eggs annually. The manager and the hatchery process of taking the eggs that we saw in the video, that was at Cannery Creek Hatchery. The Gulkana Hatchery, up off the Copper River. The Gulkana Hatchery is located about 260 miles from the Gulf of Alaska at the base of the Alaska Range. It's near the headwaters of the Gulkana River, and it's just a few miles north of Paxson. Gulkana is also a state-owned hatchery that was established in 1973, also by the ADF&G FRED Division. PWSAC assumed management and operational control of the hatchery in 1993. Gulkana is currently permitted for 36.75 million sockeye salmon eggs annually. Main Bay Hatchery, coming back to the Sound. Main Bay Hatchery is located in Main Bay of Prince William Sound, approximately 40 miles southeast of Whittier. Main Bay is the first sockeye smolt producing hatchery in the world. It's also a state-owned hatchery that was built in 1981 by the ADF&G Fred Division, and it was originally built as a chum salmon hatchery. PWSAC assumed management and operational control of the hatchery in 1990, and Maya Bay is currently permitted for 12.4 million sockeye salmon eggs annually. Wally Noerenberg Hatchery. Wally Noerenberg Hatchery is located in Lake Bay on the southern end of Esther Island in Prince William Sound. It's approximately 20 miles east of Whittier. W&H is the second PWSAC-owned hatchery, AFK being the first, or Armin F. Koerning Hatchery being the first. And this hatchery was built in 1985 with monies borrowed from the Alaska Fisheries Enhancement Revolving Loan Fund. W&H is one of the largest salmon production facilities in North America. It's permitted annually to produce 148 million pinks, 153 million chum salmon, 4 million coho, and then the 50,000 Chinook. And that's what I wanted to present on today, but I'd be happy to answer any questions here, and I'll be available at the break also. I'll stick around if folks have questions further.
Thank you, Geoff. Do we have questions here in the room? Go ahead.
Correct. Yeah. All. Yes.
Can you repeat the question?
Which hatcheries does PWSAC own in Prince William Sound and on the Gulkana River? And PWSAC owns the AFK hatchery and the Wally Noerenberg hatchery, and then Main Bay, Cannery Creek, and the Gulkana hatchery up on the Gulkana River, tributary to the Copper, are all fish and game facilities.
Lonnie, go ahead.
Yes. Our tour boats often go into Lake Bay, and we say that it is one of the largest salmon hatcheries in North America. Visitors always want the superlative, so can you tell us which one is the largest salmon hatchery in North America?
I honestly don't know the answer to that, but I'm cautious. I believe it is the largest. I don't know of any others, but I've tried to find and can't substantiate that, so I'm cautious to say that. There you go. Thank you.
Are there other questions here in the room? Oh, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Well, you guys bring in some position up that you plant here just outside Whittier, right?
Correct. The question was about the Chinook that, the Chinook that are planted here in Whittier are from Fish and Game, the William Jack Hernandez in Anchorage. They're from that facility. They also do the Chinook in Cordova. We have a agreement where we get 50,000 eggs from that Fish and Game hatchery, and then we raise those to the smolt size, and then we take those and release those in Chenega. But the ones here in Whittier, the coho are ours. They get released that you see in the pen over there right now. And then the Chinook that will come after that are from the Fish and Game hatchery. Good question.
Teresa.
Could you clarify, you mentioned that Fish and Game owns the facilities, but how about the land that facilities are on?
There is a whole host of agencies that we work with on land ownership. Cannery Creek Hatchery is Forest Service. Main Bay Hatchery is Forest Service. Wally Noerenberg Hatchery, one of the facilities that PWSAC does own, is actually in a state marine park, so that's on state land. And then the AFK Hatchery, we actually do own that land. That is private. We work with Chenega on the water rights, though, from the lake.
I want to get to a couple of questions that are coming in online. So here's one. Why do you not recognize your significant remote salmon fry release in Port Chalmers as a hatchery? It has as much or more of an impact on the PWS ecosystem. I think that's the question.
I'm glad they brought it up. I just hadn't thought of that. That's one of our remote releases. We do 40 million chum from the Wally Noerenberg hatchery, and they're transferred usually around the middle to beginning of March down to that remote release location, and raised there until about middle of May, and then we release those, and then they'll come back to that location. I guess I didn't understand the others. Was there a second part to that question, or?
I think that was the question.
Okay.
Sorry,
I'm glad they brought that up.
Phone from some questions coming in online, and there's another one online. I understand that your fish are coming back smaller with fewer eggs, and you are now asking ADF&G to increase the number of fish you take for eggs to make up for this. Do you see this as a red flag that you have overproduced, gone past enhancement, and are just now focused on production? Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely. So the hatcheries, we're in a fortunate situation where we get a lot of data and we have a lot of feedback from what's happening out in the big wide ocean. And so when studies have been done, we're also seeing smaller size at return in wild fish. It's not just the hatchery fish where we're seeing that. It's across the board. So yes, we have, we've looked at that data and we've asked to increase the number of fish to make sure that the number of fish that we need for our brood or the egg take goals in order to achieve that. But I don't think that's isolated to just the hatcheries. We're seeing that in different parts of the state and in wild fish as well.
Thanks, Geoff. Is there any more questions here in the room? Go ahead.
Yeah, so the question was that the fish that we use for egg take, where do they come from, and are we able to utilize them after we take the eggs from them? So the answer is those are the fish that return to that location. And so we manage the fisheries so that we want all the fish to go to the users that we can, but we have to make sure that we capture that component of brood. And we want to try and do that over the entire course of the run. And so those fish just swim right up there naturally on their own. And when they're ready, they'll come into those systems and then we can take the gametes. We've been in a fortunate situation where we've what we call raceway sales, where we've had full utilization of all the carcasses and even the eggs that we're not able to put into the incubation room when they're green or they're not ready yet, or if they're over mature. We've been able to partner with some processors. We have a long-standing relationship with Whittier Seafoods. They've been one of our great partners in those full utilization programs. So they have markets and are able to do things with those carcasses and eggs that we can't use.
We do have more questions, but we're out of time. So thanks a lot, Geoff. And
thank you.
I don't know if you shared your contact information, but thank you. So before our next presentation, I just want to take a moment to thank again our partners, Prince William Sound RCAC, for helping us plan the Natural History Symposium, and thank you also from the foundation to the generous donors, to Titlet Corporation, RCAC, City of Whittier, and Chugach level sponsors, including William Melton Media Productions, Babkin Charters, Drifters Fish, Colony Builders, and others who have helped make the symposium possible. There's a lot of people volunteering behind the scenes and a lot of people who have made generous donations to give us this opportunity every year. So thank you. And then, as I mentioned, this year we have, we put a focus on having student and youth participation and also information about student and youth opportunities in Prince William Sound. And so we have next in this room, in a moment, we're going to have Chris Conlon and Caitlin Tedderton, a presentation from Alaska Geographic. And in the next room online, we have from the Forest Service, Nick Dawkin, presenting on Kitslit's murrelets space use in Columbia Bay. So between these two concurrent sessions, we've incorporated some youth participants and also opportunities for youth engagement. And Chris and Caitlin, is there a third presenter with you? Okay, it's you guys. Okay, great. So, oh, and I'm sorry, last reminder is if you're joining us online today and you're trying to navigate between these two concurrent sessions, then you want to go to your schedule button where you can see which programs are, you can enter different rooms online. And here in this room, we'll have Chris and Caitlin from Alaska Geographic.